I spent 5 years finalizing the $330,000 mortgage to keep the house in our family. But they removed my name from the deed and gifted it to my brother. You don't have kids, he does, Dad smirked. I didn't yell, just sent a screenshot of clause 4.7. A week later, they called 6 times in 1 hour. I wrote, not my house, right? My name's Aaron. I'm 33, the oldest, the quiet fixer, the one who shows up with a toolbox and pays for the pizza no one reimburses. I do IT for a hospital system, which means I'm good with long forms, longer nights, and solving other people's messes. I don't drink much, I run on black coffee, and for reasons I still can't explain, I have always believed that being dependable would eventually be enough. Family roll call is simple. Mom collects recipes and grudges. Dad talks like he's the CFO of a Fortune 500, but the only spreadsheets he opens are the ones I built. My brother, Nate, is 30 with 2 kids and a permanent, I'll figure it out expression. I don't have kids. I have a 2009 hatchback with a dent on the passenger door and a drawer full of labeled warranties. We were at Sunday dinner, the one with the chipped blue plates and the roast that always tastes like thyme and smoke alarms. I'd helped set the table because Nate had to make a call, which meant he was scrolling on the porch. Mom was in her apron, Dad was carving too aggressively, and I was talking to my niece about the volcano project I promised to bring baking soda for. Then Dad cleared his throat like a judge. Let's be adults, he said, eyes on me. We made a decision about the house. I looked up. The house. Our grandparents' place. The one with the sagging porch I jacked up last fall. The roof I patched. The furnace I replaced in February during a snowstorm while Nate was in Miami for a conference. Dad set the knife down and folded his hands like a pastor. You don't have kids, Aaron. He does. Silence clicked closed around the table. Nate tried to keep his face neutral and failed. My niece dropped a fork. My nephew kept chewing. Mom took over with a smile that had no warmth. It's a family home, she said. Family means thinking about the future. Whose future? I heard myself ask. That tone, she snapped. Don't start. Nate finally spoke. It's not personal, man. It's logical. The word logical hit like a slap. I stared at the gravy boat because if I looked at Dad, I might say something I couldn't unsay. My palms went hot, then cold. We'll talk later, Dad added. Casual, like he was moving a meeting on my calendar. Eat before it gets cold. I cut a piece of overcooked roast and chewed even though my mouth was dry. My brain was already moving, sliding pieces into place, every little favor I'd said yes to lined up like receipts in a folder. I didn't argue. Not then. I nodded, swallowed, and asked my niece about her volcano. But the first crack had already opened. And it started with 6 words I couldn't stop replaying. You don't have kids, he does. If you ask them, they'll say I always loved that house. That I insisted on taking responsibility. That I volunteered. What I did was sign. I signed because 5 years ago Dad called me at 11 p.m. with that voice. The one he uses when the walls are closer than he wants to admit. Buddy, we're in a bind. The bind was a $330,000 refinance to keep the house after Grandpa died and the estate taxes came due. The old loan was a balloon, the rate was awful, and the house needed work. Temporary, Dad promised. We just need your credit to secure a better rate. Then we'll take you off the paperwork next year. This is for the family. Next year stretched into 5. I handled everything. I built spreadsheets, compared rates, argued with underwriters about appraisal comps, hunted down pay stubs Mom had scanned crooked, sat through calls while Dad wandered off to find his reading glasses. I took PTO for inspections. I crawled through the crawl space to photograph the insulation because the lender wanted proof. I explained escrow to Mom. I explained escrow to Mom again. I brought donuts to the appraiser. I paid the application fees. I stayed up late reading the deed, the note, the riders, the boring parts no one else reads, especially the boring parts. When the furnace died that first winter, I paid the contractor deposit because Dad's card declined. He Venmo'd me $300 with a thumbs up emoji and the words, more later. Later didn't arrive. When the roof leaked, I lined up the roofer. When the basement flooded, I rented the fans. When the property taxes escrow ran short, I wired the difference and told myself it was fine because we were almost there, always almost there. Every holiday, someone would bring up legacy. Mom would tilt her head and say, your grandmother wanted the house and the family. The family meant my parents and Nate's kids. Me? I was the guy with the tool belt and the credit score. Nate's contribution was vibes. He'd show up at the last hour of a workday with iced coffee, lean on a ladder, and say, "You're a machine, man." Then he'd leave early because the kids are melting down. When the gutters needed clearing, he put on gloves for 5 minutes and then remembered a podcast he needed to finish. When the painter quoted too high, he argued about color swatches. Money was always the undercurrent. "You make more," Mom would say when I hesitated. "You don't have daycare." Dad liked to phrase things as loans that never had return dates. "Float us till Friday," he'd say on a Wednesday 2 months long. And the language, God, the language. The way a request becomes a duty with one tilt of a sentence. "You're so good at this, Aaron. You know how to talk to banks. You're detail-oriented. You're the only one who understands the forms." I do. I did. I carried the file folder with the plastic sleeves and sticky tabs and kept every email. I learned to talk like a loan officer because no one else could do it without getting defensive. I kept the air calm while Dad made jokes about signing his life away, and Mom fussed over the notary's pen, and Nate sent selfies from the trampoline park. I told myself it was worth it when the refinance closed. The rate was decent, the payment manageable. The house would be safe. We'd get my name off the deed after a year, Dad said. I believed him because I wanted to. Because the alternative felt like admitting I was financing a story where I was the extra. The months became years. Every time I asked about restructuring, about getting my name off, Dad had a reason. "Market's weird. We need 2 more pay cycles to show stability. Let's wait till we pay down the kitchen." The kitchen was new cabinets Mom saw on Pinterest that turned into $12,000 somehow. Guess who the contractor called when Mom didn't pick up? Somewhere in year 3, small cracks deepened. The insurance policy came addressed to me and Dad. "Why is your name on everything?" Mom asked, irritated, as if I had sneaked it there at night. The HOA sent a violation about the fence, my email, my headache. Dad forwarded it with "Can you?" and nothing else. When I said I couldn't make a repair that weekend because I had a conference, Mom sighed, so loud I could feel it through the phone. "Must be nice," she said. "Some of us don't get to pick when the house falls apart." In year 4, I covered an escrow shortfall again. "You'll be paid back," Dad texted. I screenshotted the thread and filed it. I didn't say why I saved things. I just did. Then came the small, stupid moment that should have told me where this was heading. It was my birthday. Mom posted a photo of Nate's kids in front of the house with balloons. The caption read, "So grateful for our home and the future we're building for our grandbabies." No mention of me. No tag. Just a comment from Dad. "Couldn't have done it without family." Aunt June replied. Nate really stepped up. I stared at my phone until the screen dimmed and set it face down. By year 5, I asked point blank, "Let's sit with a title company. Get my name off." We said 1 year. Dad's pause had weight. "We'll figure it out," he said. "Don't push." "Push," I repeated. "We're not made of money," Mom added from somewhere behind him. "You know Nate just started a new job, and the kids need braces. And why are you making this so transactional?" Because I was the transaction. 2 weeks before that Sunday dinner, I stopped by to drop off filters for the HVAC because no one else remembers the size. Dad was on the phone, pacing. Mom folded laundry. I reached for the mail stack to fish out the utility bill I needed for the reimbursement spreadsheet. There was a thin manila envelope. County Recorder's Office. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I worked in those systems enough to know the weight of an official stamp. Mom noticed my eyes. "Leave the mail," she said quickly. Too quickly. I put the envelope down. I went home. I made coffee. I reviewed my scanned PDFs. I reread the note. I reread the deed. I found the part most people skip. The part one had highlighted in yellow 5 years ago because I'm the kind of person who highlights in yellow and then goes back and adds tabs. Clause 4.7. Transfer and assumption. Unauthorized conveyance constitutes default. I slept badly for a week. Then Sunday dinner happened. Then Dad said the quiet part with a smirk. "You don't have kids," he does. The decision wasn't a decision. It was the end of a long, slow reroute where I paid tolls and they renamed the road. I didn't yell. Maybe that disappointed them. People who are used to your compliance get loud so they can call you dramatic when you finally say no. After dinner, Dad tried to wave me into the den like a manager calling an employee for a quick chat. I stayed in the doorway. "Here's the thing," he began. "We've executed a deed of gift. It's still the family house. Just formally under Nate. Makes financing the future simpler. My fingers tingled. You conveyed title while I'm on the note. Dad shrugged. Don't be so legal about it. Nate leaned on the doorframe, hands in his pockets. It just makes sense, man. Kids need stability. You said you didn't even want to live here. You are correct, I said. I don't want to live here. I pulled out my phone and opened photos. Tap, tap. Screenshot. Clause 4.7 in clean, boring font, yellow highlight almost glowing. I dropped it into the family group chat. For reference. The read receipts popped in a row. Mom, typing. Dad, typing. Nate, typing. Mom fired first. What is this? Your mortgage, I typed. Ours. Dad called me. I declined. He called again. Declined. The third time, I answered and put it on speaker. Aaron, he said in that patient tone. We talked about this. You're making a mountain. Clause 4.7, I said. Any transfer without lender consent constitutes default. You recorded a deed gifting the property to Nate. That's a transfer. Silence. Then Dad laughed, thin and brittle. You don't understand how these things work. I do. You wouldn't tank your own credit, Nate said from the doorway, arms wide like he'd caught me in a checkmate. You're not that dumb. I'm not tanking anything, I said. I'm clarifying boundaries. Mom stepped in, chin high. After everything we've done for you, what exactly have you done for me? I asked, calm, genuinely curious to hear the script. Raised you, she snapped. Fed you. Supported you. As an adult, I said, I carried this house. Dad's voice turned steel. Listen, this drama ends now. You will not cost us the home over a technicality. Then undo the technicality, I said. He glared. You're ungrateful. There it was. The word that turns favors into chains. I ended the call and texted one more screenshot. My email draft to the servicer's compliance address. Subject line populated. Attachment labeled recorded deed. Transfer without consent.pdf. I didn't hit send. Not yet. I wanted them to see the message I had never sent before. I can be quiet and still move mountains. The group chat blew up. Mom, how dare you? Dad, we'll talk in the morning. Nate, you wouldn't do this to your niece and nephew. Aunt June, family handles family issues privately. I put my phone face down. I washed my plate. I said goodbye to my niece and promised the volcano next weekend. Then I left. In the car, I stared at my own reflection in the windshield, the porch light glinting on the glass like a pale moon. I wasn't shaking. I thought I would be. Instead, there was a low hum in my chest, not anger. Clarity. I went home. I opened the folder labeled House, Legal. I moved the draft email into a new folder labeled Lines. Monday morning at 8:03 a.m., I emailed the servicer's compliance department. No theatrics, just facts. I am co-borrower on loan. On date, a deed recorded transferring title to a third party without my consent or lender approval. Please advise per section 4.7 regarding default and remedies. Attached, PDF of recorded deed. I CC'd the generic inbox and, because I know how queues work, the escalation mailbox. I added the property insurance agent because the named insured had changed in the deed. I attached the escrow analysis showing my top-ups. I included a tidy list of repairs I'd funded with dates and amounts. I did not editorialize. I did not accuse. I documented. It's a language institutions respect because it's the only one they read. At 8:19 a.m., Dad called. I let it go to voicemail. At 8:22, Mom called. At 8:23, Dad again. By 8:30, I had 6 missed calls and 1 text from Nate. Bro, what are you doing? At 8:41, the servicer responded. We have open case hashtag A41129 for review. Please allow 1 to 3 business days. At 9:05, the family group chat pinged. Mom, your father is sick to his stomach. Dad, you're making a fool of yourself. Aunt June, is this about jealousy? Nate, this is actually illegal harassment, FYI. I muted the thread. I went to work. I fixed a Citrix outage and answered tickets and ate a protein bar at my desk. Around lunch, my phone started buzzing with a frequency that felt like a fire alarm. 36 calls in 1 hour. New personal best. I sent a single text to Mom and Dad, copied to Nate. Not my house, right? Silence. Then a flurry. Dad, you're going to owe apologies when this is over. Mom, your grandmother would be devastated. Nate, don't pretend you care about the family. You just care about control. The servicer called me at 2:17. The rep's voice was neutral and professional in the way that registers as power if you've ever worked a help desk. Mr. Hale, we received your documentation. I need to ask a few verification questions. We went through the checklist. We confirmed the deed. We confirmed I had not consented. We confirmed no assumption had been processed. Then she read from her script. Per your deed of trust, an unauthorized transfer is a default event. Options include acceleration or requiring a corrective deed. We typically begin by requesting the transfer be reversed within a specific time frame. So you'll contact them? I said. Yes, she replied. We will send a formal notice today. When I hung up, I felt a sharp twist in my gut. Not guilt. Something between grief and relief. Like peeling off a bandage and seeing the skin underneath is raw but clean. By dinner, the texts had changed flavor, from demands to bargaining. Mom, let's just fix this without involving strangers. Dad, we'll put your name back on. Simple. Nate, man, come on. The kids are crying. You happy? I typed, deleted, typed. I landed on. You removed my name. You explained why. I heard you. Now hear me. I will not carry what I do not own. At 7:48 p.m., Aunt June called to intervene. Families don't call banks on families, she said like it was a law of physics. Families don't record gifts behind people's backs, I said. She was quiet a beat. They weren't behind your back. They did it without my consent while I'm on the note, I said. That's behind my back and in front of a notary. That night, Dad sent a long text about sacrifice and how he'd given me so much. I scrolled. He listed little boy baseball games and a science fair and a set of tires in college. I remembered saving for those tires working at the campus help desk, paying cash after he said he'd cover them next month. Memory is weird like that. Tuesday morning, a courier dropped a letter at my apartment. The servicer's notice to cure. 30 days to reverse the transfer or face acceleration. A copy had gone to the house. At 9:11 a.m., Dad called from a different number. When I answered, he skipped hello. You put our home at risk. No, I said. You did. He tried the full court press. Nate's kids need stability. You don't have kids. This is the obvious path. You're being technical. Technical is what got you a good rate, I said. Technical kept you out of default 3 times when escrow went short. Technical fixed your furnace and your roof and your fence. Technical is why the house still exists to transfer. I took a breath. Technical is also why you can't deed it away like a fruit basket. He was breathing hard. Undo this. You undo it, I said. File a corrective deed putting title back where it was. Then we talk about next steps. My next step is getting off the loan entirely. We can't do that right now. Then you can't do this right now. He hung up. By Thursday, the house had a new group chat nicknamed Real Family Only. My aunt added me by accident. I screenshotted gems like, he's always been jealous, and he wants control because he's alone. I left the chat and saved the screenshots and lines. Friday, Mom tried the soft approach. She called crying, said she hadn't slept, said she was nauseous. She said the word please. I listened. I didn't rescue. Aaron, she whispered, you're punishing us. I'm protecting me, I said. What about the children? I'm not their bank, I said. Their parents are. There was a long, wet sniff. You know, she said, voice suddenly cold. This is why no one wants to build their life around you. I could have said 1,000 things. I said nothing and ended the call. Sunday, a week from the dinner, a different courier arrived at 10 a.m. A new deed. Corrective. Made out. Title returned. No apology note, just the legal correction. 5 years of we'll fix it later, resolved in 4 days. Under pressure, they respected. I set the new deed beside the old one and took a photo. I texted Dad, Mom, and Nate. Received. Next step, removing me from the loan. I'll send you a calendar invite for a meeting with a loan officer. We will do it together. This month. Dad replied with a single word, fine. Nate replied with a paragraph about how I'd humiliated them and how the kids had cried. I didn't reply. I booked the meeting. Here's what I learned. Boundaries don't announce themselves with fireworks. They look like emails with attachments and calendar invites that say, non-negotiable. They sound like silence where you used to fill the air with solutions. We sat in that bank office 2 weeks later. Me on one side of the small table, Dad and Mom on the other, Nate showing up late with a Starbucks. The loan officer explained options in the same slow, clear voice I used with people who can't print to PDF. Refinance to remove me. Or sell. Or keep me on and agree in writing to never, ever mess with title again and take on escrow funding in full without my contributions. Dad chose numbers over pride. They refinanced. The rate wasn't as good as it would have been last year, but that was not my emergency. I watched them sign and felt something unspool in the center of my chest that had been coiled for 5 years. The new note did not have my name. Mom didn't meet my eyes. Nate tapped his pen like he was doing time on a desk drum line. When it was over, the officer said, "Anything else?" And I said, "Yes," and slid a single-page document across the table. Reimbursement agreement, I said. Itemized. You can pay in installments. No interest. I'm not a lender, but I am done subsidizing. Dad's jaw clenched. We don't have. Then pay when you do, I said. Or don't. I'm not sending reminders. Nate snorted. You're really sending us a bill? I'm really ending a pattern, I said. They signed not because they agreed, but because the room was a place where signatures happen and because my silence made it clear I would not negotiate. I drove home with my windows down. The air smelled like cut grass and hot pavement. I thought I'd feel triumphant. I didn't. I felt level, like a table whose wobble finally met a folded napkin. I bought myself a new drill set with a case that clicks closed like a good sentence. I returned the spare keys to their house. I muted the family chat permanently and made a new one with friends who show up with casseroles and texts that say, "Proud of you," without adding, "but." A week later, Mom sent a photo of my niece's volcano with the caption, "It worked," and nothing else. I looked at it for a long time. Then I replied, "Nice eruption." No heart emoji. No volunteering. Just a small, human acknowledgement that doesn't cost me how I sleep. I found a therapist who laughed, kindly, when I described Clause 4.7 as my Roman candle. We built a sentence I can say out loud when I feel the old hands tugging at my sleeves. I will not carry what I do not own. It fits in my mouth now. It changes decisions. Sometimes I drive past the house on purpose. The porch beam looks straight. Someone planted hostas. The windows catch the late sun. It's pretty. It's also not mine. If my chest tightens, I breathe and remember, I did what I said I would. I kept it standing until the people who claimed it could take their hands off my back and put them on the pen. Last night, Dad texted a YouTube link about a guy fixing drywall and wrote, "We could use your skills." I typed 2 words, "Good luck." Then I put my phone face down and turned back to the skillet where onions were sweating toward sweetness. The sizzle sounded like a tiny, ordinary freedom. Here's the moral, the part one wish someone had told me when I started printing forms and thinking the right paperwork could make people kinder. Technicalities are just boundaries that someone else didn't think you would enforce. Love is not a lien. Family isn't a deed. And the sentence that finally set me free wasn't cruel or loud. It was a screenshot, a subject line, and one text. Not my house, right?